Welcome to RealmIQ Sessions, where we talk about everything AI with AI leaders from around the world. Please give us a follow or subscribe. I am Curt Doty, a Hollywood veteran in branding and marketing and now podcast host. I started my AI consultancy last year called RealmIQ, focused on education and AI adoption. We are also advising AI startups with our AI Accelerator program. Today's guest is John Attanasio, entertainment, tech executive, media junkie with global experience in both large enterprise and startups. He's on a mission to build the next generation of entertainment franchises through community-driven storytelling. He is now the co-founder of Toonstar and was most recently in the news promoting that they are using AI frontier technology to unlock opportunities for a new generation of storytellers. Definitely want to get into that. Welcome, John. How are you doing today?
Good, Curt. Thanks for having me. And yeah, no, appreciate it.
Great. So, we were both ex-studio guys. I was at Universal, you were at Warner Brothers, I think around the same time. And I just love to know your journey of how you got into animation and then how you're integrating AI into that whole process. As Hollywood has been slow to embrace AI technology, but I think you are a pioneer. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean the journey, like you said, the journey started at the studio system. So I was at Warner Brothers for a little over a decade, and before that, I was at DreamWorks, and in a variety of different roles, everything from franchise development to tech. Basically trying to leverage new technologies with new ways of storytelling. And I think that the journey to starting Toonstar was, and I met my co-founder at Warner Brothers. So, and before Warner, she was at Disney. So between the two of us, we spent a lot of time in, we consider, I guess, the large legacy studio system. And there were a couple things that we saw that led us to launch Toonstar. The first was basically the creator economy, and we were on a team that it was an interesting experience because we're on a team that we got exposed to the creator economy, YouTube very early days. And this is probably around like 2008, like 2010, I'd say. And it was early days YouTube and also early days VidCon. And we got a chance to go to one of the VidCons, and it was based, and I forget which creator. One of the creators showed up. It might have been one of the Paul brothers,
Mhm.
and it was like the Beatles had arrived at the Anaheim Convention Center, and there were crowds of people chasing him around the venue. He got in the car. There were people like, climbing on the car. And it was like something that we had personally had never seen. And so I think that was really like the first introduction to the thing that I refer to as like the creator economy, and just this kind of power of storytellers being able to connect directly with fans and what was happening on YouTube and what was starting to happen in social media. And that was kind of the first thing. And then the other sort of, I guess, aspects or things that happened was one that we've been fortunate because we worked Warner Brothers and Disney and DreamWorks. My co-founder and I have worked on some of the largest animated franchises to date, and so we just understand like the power of animation from a storytelling standpoint, from a creative standpoint, but also from a commercial standpoint, because it's I think this as well, but like animation monetizes at a better rate than live action IP. And so it's such a powerful medium. And for us, during our travels the studio system, it felt like there was a private club that had access to animation, and it was a handful of people, whether it was like writers or showrunners or voice talent. And that was always odd to us because it goes, like, I'll date myself a little bit, but I'm a child of Saturday morning cartoons.
Mhm.
My brother's a cartoonist and a graphic novelist, so I grew up going to Comic-Con before people really before Comic-Con became what it is today. And so it was strange that more people didn't have access to the medium. And then I think the third ingredient was when we looked at animation, it really, it hadn't changed much in a number of years, and it took so long to make anything,
Yeah.
and it was super expensive. And those are basically the barriers. Like that's the reason that there are a handful of people that get to make stuff in animation. But regardless, it just seemed weird to us that it's like, why does animation need to take so long, and why does it have to be so expensive? And so we put all those things together, and that sort of raised the question of like, well, gee, what would a next gen Disney or DreamWorks or Warner Animation look like if you were to start from scratch, given those things that I just mentioned? And that's what led us to Toonstar. So that's really the vision for Toonstar. Is we call ourselves an animation story studio. We're focused on building franchise and entertainment, animated franchise IP. And we do it with frontier technology, such as machine learning, generative AI, blockchain. And we also do it by partnering with a new generation of storytellers. And a lot of the folks we work with are people that had never had a chance to get their stories brought to life in animation. Given sort of the state of the industry today, I would say it's gotten increasingly harder and harder for anybody, even proven writers and folks that have like known shows under their belt. It's even getting hard for folks like that to get anything made in the current system. And so that's what we're really focused on. And I guess that's a little bit of the. And this weekend it's good time, and this weekend is Comic-Con. So in true sort of
Yeah.
superhero, Marvel DC fashion, I guess that's a bit of our origin story.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I'm a big fan of animation. I helped launch Animax and Sony back in the day when they first,
Oh, cool.
and that was at a time when American culture really didn't know or understand anime, and I had to do a deep dive and study the history. And they came up with groundbreaking techniques to make animation more affordable because they were pumping it out. So obviously there's been a lot of influence in today's animation based on anime. So kudos to you for creating a platform that empowers new storytellers and embracing a new economy, the creator platform, the creator economy. And tell me how, I mean, you mentioned it briefly, how you're using, let's say, generative AI in your development. Describe
Yeah.
that process or tech stack or workflow, please.
Yeah. So, I mean, and so, we'll talk about frontier tech. And to us, we're using and all this stuff falls under the category of AI. So we've been using machine learning since that was the first thing we did. We launched the company about 9 years ago, and the first thing we did is we built a tech stack to allow us to do high quality animation very, very quickly, and cost effectively. But the reason that it's so important for what we do is that kind of describe a bit about how we launch projects. Is that and this goes back to the creator economy part of it. Is like we're direct to consumer, at least as sort of a starting point and as a springboard to launch IP. And when you think about going direct to consumer, that means you're gonna go on YouTube, you're gonna go on social channels. It's really we do digital series, and if you're gonna do that, then our belief is that you need to do it in a way that the audience is expecting, like where they want to get it and how they want to get it. And that means, especially in the world of YouTube and social media, that's a weekly delivery. In a lot of cases, it's multiple times a week. And
Mhm.
so you sort of think about, oh, well, how are you going to do animation when you think about, the typical series can take a year to a year and a half in
Yeah.
production. How are you going to produce in a way that's going to allow you to deliver episodes on a weekly or multiple times a week? And so speed is critical. And so that's the reason the first thing we did was built this production. It's called a production engine, production tech stack, and it uses a combination of things. And again, that all falls well, at least machine learning, generative AI under the head, the heading of AI. The machine and we use different technologies for different parts of the production process. So machine learning generally today we're using for the actual animation itself. And what that's doing is it's automating a lot of like these sort of like labor intensive tasks, things like lip syncing, certain facial expressions, certain movements. And that's where the machine learning in our process has been very effective. When it comes to generative AI, we're using that in we use it on the production side. We actually also use it on the community building side.
Okay.
So on the production side, we're using it for asset creation. And it's very effective there. I've heard you talk about it, and it's a good topic. Basically, ethical use of generative AI, and we're a closed system. So what we do is we have artists that, anything that we use to train our generative AI models, there's compensation and consent. So we have artists that are getting paid to create the artwork, there's consent, and then that artwork is used to train our engines. So they're closed engines. And then what that allows us to do is create assets at a very, high rate for the production, which is, and the assets can be anything from like, characters, parts of the characters to backgrounds,
Backgrounds,
to props. Exactly.
world building, right?
Exactly.
Building with AI. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's one way we're using generative AI. Another way we're using generative AI is it's actually on the voice side. So we have a thing, it's called native performance dubbing.
Okay.
And we have a series. It's called Stephen and Parker, and we partnered with again, this is our blueprint, and this is our model, is that the creator's name's Parker James, and he's a digital creator. He's outside of like Dallas, Texas. He has a big TikTok following. I think he's like 9 million plus on TikTok. And we met him, and he was doing this like character, and it was live action, but he was using this like voice changer and like a face filter.
Mhm.
And it's super cute. We thought, really, I'm biased, but we thought it was like really funny character, but it was live action. And we looked at it and we're like, oh wow, like we think that could be a great animated character. So we, got connected with him, and we did a test, and we're like, well, let's turn this into an animated character, and drop, a pilot season on his TikTok channel. And sure enough, it like, and we have, basically, this is another tool we've created, but we have because we've been doing this 9 years, we have a lot of data, and that's it's one of the benefits of being around for a bit. And we also have a tool that's like this predictive tool that kind of allows us to, read what's working on digital platforms, and then sort of use that to decide, how we're going to either alter a series, amplify a series, or stop doing a series. And the signals were off the chart for this one. So we're like, oh, this is awesome. It's really working. So let's move it to YouTube. And so we moved them to YouTube, and in a year started with basically a brand new channel, and within a year built the channel to, I think, across all the different, and this is the point of what I was going to say, but I think he's close to 5 million subs total across all the different language channels.
Yeah.
In a year. But this is where this voice dubbing comes in, because Parker only speaks English.
Right.
And what we're able to do is basically this dubbing tech takes his performance, and now he's speaking Spanish, now he's speaking German, now he's speaking Japanese. And so Stephen and Parker is in 5 different languages on 5 different continents, and he's currently getting 30 million weekly viewers. I would say of the 30 million weekly viewers, a good third of that is it's non-English territory, like, countries.
Right.
So you think about that and you're like, oh wow, like here's a way to use generative AI. Again, it's on the production side. And really, it's such a powerful way to like help scale IP and audience. And then part of the tech, what we've done is like we've got the audio part, and then we've built tech that then takes the new language, because you speak a new language, and now you have to do the lips are going to be different.
Different,
Sometimes
yeah.
expressions will
Okay.
be a little bit different. So our tech then takes that audio and then syncs it to the lip syncing.
That's amazing.
So that's
What a
another
what a testament to you for figuring out that it's really not AI is not going to replace people. It's an opportunity to amplify and bring human IP
That's right.
to millions all over the world, right?
That's right. That's
And I
exactly
mean, it
right.
has enabled you and your partners to bring stories to life that otherwise would not have maybe seen the light of day, certainly to an international audience.
That well, and that's exactly it. And and I've heard you talk about which we agrees. It aligns with our philosophy. Whenever you talk about using generative AI in this practical way, and like instead of like how can you take this tool and this tech and bring it into existing workflows and
Right,
plug it into areas in where it makes sense
right.
and do that today, right? Not like that's not something that you had to wait
No, no, no.
2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever, till
Happening now, happening now.
happening now. And that's a way you can use it and plug into existing workflows in different places. And completely agree with how you describe that because that's exactly what we're doing. It's like we plug in now, we use it in ways that really supercharge productivity. It supercharges productivity in our case a lot of ways because of speed. And then it helps supercharge community building. And I'll always because I think like feels like today there's this like polarization of responses to generative
Oh yeah,
AI,
yeah.
and it's either like irrational exuberance or irrational fear. And not say everybody falls in that category, but it feels like there's a lot of that. And we believe there's this the truth is somewhere in the middle, and there's really great use cases for how you can use it today that, to your point, can help creators, can help storytellers, can help get projects launched that, again, I'll say like Stephen and Parker would never, and the point is it didn't get made, nor do I think it would ever have gotten made in the legacy system.
Right.
Yet here's a project with, again, I'll call him a kid because he's much younger than I am, but that outside of Dallas, Texas, that's getting viewership that's 10x The Simpsons, and that just would never have happened. And so that's why we're really bullish on it because it's like you can use it in this practical way. Now, it's not going to be the push, and this is where I think the irrational exuberance comes in because. I think a lot of ways like there's like, oh, it's great. There's this button that you push and out pops The Simpsons or out pops South Park.
No.
And our belief is like, no, that's not how it works. Like, you need the tech and the tool, but you also need great storytellers. And those together is where I think the magic happens. And I don't know, like in 15, 20 years, can you hit a button and something, a feature episode pops out or a feature film pops out? Maybe, but I don't see that today.
Yeah,
So.
no, I'm not going to see an AI film in the near future, but I think how you're using these tools, putting a creative centered focus based on these creators that you're working with, I think that's the story that's going to kind of break the dam of AI adoption in Hollywood. And I know you're at VidCon, you were just interviewed by Forbes. So, I mean, I think you're doing the right things and the right type of evangelism. And thank you so much for doing that because it's been very frustrating being an advocate over the past year and a half to recognize AI and its value. You know, I came from Hollywood, worked there for over 25 years, and they're the last industry to really embrace it. And you are a textbook example of how you have one solved the ethics problem, right? With ethical sourcing. You are still putting your creators in the middle and total control of their own IP, right? There's no loss of
Yeah.
ownership of IP. And you're streamlining your production in a smart way using machine learning, generative AI. All these are just tools to help that creator and you as a company, as an animation distribution company creation, to get these stories out there. And I just think it's such a wonderful case study that combats what I call a very vocal minority
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Hollywood who is, spreading the fear that has really slowed down the progress.
Yeah.
And you said, well, fuck the fear. We're just going to figure out how to use it and win,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing. You're winning. And that's just a awesome story.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank you. Yeah, I
Tell me
appreciate
about
it.
some of the other shows where it's working, and how big is your library, and what are your future plans?
Yeah, so I mean and we got one of our first projects was that got a lot of attention. And there's well, actually I should that we have a series, and this is kind of like a little known, fun fact, and it doesn't get a ton of attention just because it's not a network platform, but we actually have the largest animated series on Snap Discover. It's called Storytoons, and we've been doing that, I'd say, for four plus years. And it's the best way to describe it. It's like animated BuzzFeed. So the audience is, it's teen YA, and it's made for the audience on Snap, and there are these episodes that are like we did it intentionally. It's animated, but it's designed as a way a lot of like vloggers do things on YouTube or social media. So it's like that first person storytelling. And it gets millions of viewers per week, per episode. And we do 3 episodes per week. And so it's like I like talking about it because it's the viewership is so strong. And again, it's Snap Discover, so it monetizes well.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, was one of our sort of first big hits. And then we've done a couple projects in Web3. We did one we co-produced with Mila Kunis about, I want to say about three, it was early days Web3. It was called The Gimmicks, and it was her second project on the blockchain. And that was it was great. Got a ton of attention. It had a lot of Web3 firsts because it was the first it was the first weekly community driven animated series in Web3, which again, that again goes back to our, and we can't do that without the production engine, because we had to do weekly episodes. And even beyond that, we once the community voted on, it was like choose your own adventure ish, and so they'd vote
Right.
on what was going to happen. And then once they vote, we'd have to be ready then to take the results of the vote and then integrate that into the episode, and do that in like 4 days. And so that was a lot of fun. Again, got a lot of attention. I think the community reacted really well to it. We also built a social layer. It was
Mhm.
we were told by some really credible sources that we built the first social layer in Web3. And I can't make this up. This is a true story. It's called the Dick Punch. Now, when I say that, you got to remember it's like thematic. Like the Gimmicks is adult animation. It's like South Park meets, WWE wrestling. So it's very on brand for the series, but it does stand for something different. It stands for decentralized, inclusive community. So
Okay.
we're not total barbarians. But anyway, that was like our version of the Facebook poke. And it gave the community the ability, they used the token to vote on the episodes. They were able to create their own characters, basically like fan fiction.
Yep.
And then the community got to vote on those characters. And then based on which characters got the most votes, then they could actually voice their character. They would win a cameo in an episode, which, is a really big deal, because now all of a sudden you get IMDb credit in a Mila Kunis produced series.
Wow.
And so that was really cool and fun. And then our follow-up project to that was a thing called Space Junk, which we co-produced with John Heater. And we created that with Dominic Russo, who was the creator of Workaholics.
Hmm.
And then it also stars Tony Cavallero plays the lead role. And so it's just that again, and that sort of followed a similar blueprint where we were allowing the community to vote on episodes. They got to interact. They got to create their own fan fiction and characters. And this is where I think there's a really interesting application for generative AI, we did the same thing around fan fiction, but for Space Junk, we actually created a character. Her name's Welbecca. And in the series, there's a character, Welbecca, and well, one, she was also voiced by generative AI. So we used Gen AI to voice her character. But because she was a robot, we felt like, oh, this could be a cool way that we create a tool and we let the community, the fans in the community use this tool to create their own fan fiction. So versus what we did in the gimmicks, it's just like white, it was like a wiki and it was all white space and you have to go and sort of manually create your own story. In this case, well, Becca, you go and you take you give your token to her, and then you can basically she'll help you write a backstory for your character. And then if you like your backstory, she'll take your backstory and then she'll turn it into a comic panel. And all that is powered by generative AI. And so I think that's like a really interesting use case where now you're using Gen AI to build, community engagement and participation.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Web3 has had its hurdles and impasses
Yes.
and failures. So, do you think your Web3 blueprint is still valid today, or is your Gen AI blueprint really the model moving forward? And you also mentioned blockchain, because I think blockchain is a little separate from Web3. It's inclusive, but I think blockchain is really continuing on where crypto and NFTs are, kind of in trouble.
Yeah.
So explain to me how blockchain's integrated, and have you abandoned kind of that Web3 approach, or what's
Yeah,
the new
yeah, no,
strategy?
it's a good question. No, so the short answer is we haven't, and so I think, I think one, blockchain Web3 needs a makeover, and and in a big way, and I think it's unfortunate because there were just so many bad actors in the space. There were so many money grabs, and it was just it really to me, opinion of one, but it really hurt that industry.
Yeah.
That said, I still think there's value to the technology. I think there was a hype cycle, it was overblown, but I think where the value actually sits is that we think of Web3 and the blockchain as like a loyalty program. And it's like, I think there's value to having this ledger basically that's transparent. It tracks provenance. With it, gives certain rights for like super fans. And I think all that is and also when I think you start looking forward to like this world of like, giving people royalties on things. And I think blockchain is a really good way to sort of like, securely track and bring
Right.
transparency to that.
Right.
And when you think about it in our world, what is that? It's in a way, it's a loyalty program. And so I think we're looking at it as like, is we're going to continue to use it, but we're going to use it as like a loyalty layer.
Okay.
And, basically what that means is for super fans that want to go really deep, they want to participate in like world building, they want to create their own fan fiction, they want to have certain rights in terms of like access to like, talent and things, then you can go and you have your token and the token gives you those rights and it's all secure and it's tracked and it's transparent, and that's how we're going to use it, and so we'll continue to do that. But I think it's a feature of the projects that we launch, and basically we do these digital projects, these digital series, and it'll be an aspect, but it's not. I don't think it's the lead. To me, it's
It's
not the
not the
lead.
lead story.
Yeah,
That's
not the
the
lead. Yeah,
distinction.
it's not the lead because
Even
at the end,
even
well,
AI is not your lead story. It's really still about the creators and the concepts and
that's
the
it. That's
characters,
it.
the storytelling, essentially.
Well,
But you're just weaving in technology. Some companies like yours, they say, "Oh no, we're a technology company," or we're when Snap said, "No, we're an entertainment platform," it was like, wow, that's a major repositioning, right?
yeah,
So for an entertainment company to go and say, no, we're a technology platform, it's like, no, it's like use the technology to empower your creators with human-driven stories and using technology, whether it's Gen AI or blockchain, whatever,
that's right.
to really amplify and make these storytellers successful globally.
That's it. Well, what you just said is exactly what we say, because at the end of the day, it's like, and to me, especially Web3, but I think Gen AI as well, it's like that's on the back end, and that's what makes the things possible. But the consumers, the fans, they don't care. Like they care about the characters, the
Right.
story, the
Right.
creators behind it, the storytellers
Yes.
behind it. That's what they
Right.
care about. So that's always going to be the lead in for us.
And
You know, for
that's human, and
that's
creativity
human.
is human.
That's right. That's
And
right.
and that will never change no matter what technology phase that we're in.
That's exactly right.
And so, yeah, I talk a lot about a creative-centered UAI and give these tools to professionals who have been in the business for 10, 20, 30 years. Let them, integrate that into their workflow and supercharge them in their job. And that in no way replaces that editor, let's say, or an
That's right.
animator.
That's
It
right.
like no, it like supercharges them into a whole nother stratosphere.
Yeah.
And I think that's the story. That's the winning story, and that's how we kind of break this law in Hollywood, which, I mean, there's already Hollywood in general is in a existential crisis based on, streaming and studio consolidation. There's going to be less content, there's going to be less budgets, and I think a company like yours outside of the system, right? Is
Yep.
like, no, we can tell these stories and we're doing it very efficiently. And we're getting out there in a way that traditional networks and studio distribution systems can't compete with
That's
what
right.
you're doing. And
Yeah.
that's a fantastic story that needs to get out there. I'm hopefully going to be able to amplify that story with my little podcast here, but you're really doing something that I believe is the correct way to approach creativity in this, what is a new renaissance,
Yeah. Yeah.
for creators. And,
Yeah.
I think, if anything, you've created jobs, you've created fans, you've created content, and all that is like fantastic. Tell me
Yeah.
something wrong with that. That's like,
Yeah.
you know, the creator economy is something, Hollywood could learn a lot from. And you've taken that lesson and applied it, recognize there's fandom outside of Hollywood. There's fandom outside of Marvel. There's fandom outside of Star Wars.
Mhm.
And you can create new franchises and new followings that rival the numbers, right, of The
Yeah.
Simpsons, like you
Yeah.
stated, let alone Marvel. So it's fantastic.
Thank you.
Any
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah. Are you at Comic-Con right now or
No, back, yeah, no, back in LA.
okay.
So
All right.
yeah, yeah, back in LA.
Just wanted to give you an opportunity to plug the website, any new shows or any new developments as we kind of are entering the end of our little podcast here.
Oh, thank you.
Anything to slug?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just I think yeah, the website definitely. I'd say come check us out. Like, and the website is a good spot to just sort of and again, like what we're doing is, it is a new way to approach, building, animated IP. And so I think the website's a good place to sort of check out our digital series and just check out like how we think about this new way to tell stories. And to your point, just getting things and just getting things made, because there are so many talented storytellers and creators out there that can't get things made, and we those are the folks we want to work with, and we want to help them bring their ideas and stories to life. And with the way we do production, it enables that. And to your point, with distribution has changed. Distribution has been disrupted. YouTube is, I think, now the single largest viewing platform in the world. And
The most watched channel in living rooms
that's
across
right. Yeah.
America. Yeah.
Yeah. In
The number
America.
one
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
That's
It's you.
crazy, right? You think
Great.
about networks and
Yeah.
right, cable, HBO, it's like, no, it's
It's
YouTube.
it's amazing. It's YouTube. So YouTube is the most watched, platform. And so YouTube, social media, like distribution is fundamentally, changed, and that gives the ability to distribute direct to fans the way we do. And production, we feel like we've really reinvented the way you can produce animated content that makes sense for going direct to consumer. And so yeah, and so the website toonstar.com is a great place to check out what we're up to. I'd also say, check out Stephen and Parker on YouTube. It's a breakout hit on YouTube. What else is coming? We have a partnership with Random House, so there's going to be a graphic novel series coming next year for Stephen and Parker. But that all started with social media. It all started with testing that on TikTok and then moving it to YouTube, where it blew up, and now it's got a multi-series book deal with Random House. And I think that's just proof of, this is a way, this is a great way to build IP. It's a powerful way to build IP, and it's a powerful way to give storytellers a chance that otherwise wouldn't have gotten a chance to get their stuff made. And so check out Stephen, if you get, audience gets time, check out Stephen and Parker. It's fun, great series. And then there's just, there's more coming. Like, Stephen and Parker really is our blueprint. And so we've got a pipeline and slate of projects that are coming that, that sort of, that follow the Stephen and Parker blueprint. So I would just ask everyone to stay tuned, because there's more coming.
All right. Thanks, John. And speaking about staying tuned, thanks for tuning in, and catch more of our RealmIQ sessions on your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify and YouTube, which we just talked about. So please follow and smash that subscribe button. Thanks again, John, for being a guest.
Curt, thanks for having me. It's great.
RealmIQ. Book your corporate AI workshop today.
CurtDoty.co. Branding, marketing and product development.